It's always so nice when I can finally sit down and talk to you guys about knitting. So hi, hello. If you're new here, my name is Ev, and today is going to be a Knits and Babbles. Knits and Babbles is a podcast type episode where I sit down and I share all of my progress with you guys, what I've finished, what I've casted on, and what I've been spinning or up to art fiber-wise. So let's hop right into it because we have a lot to talk about today. It is a rather warm day. It is a rather gray day. It's very humid outside, and I thought it would be a perfect day to wear my ranunculus. And this is the only version I've made so far, but I do want to knit another one because I actually really like this yoke here. So this one was knit up in Papyrus by Fibra Natura, and it was a yarn I picked up last September when I went to Turkey. It is a Turkish yarn. It was 50% cotton and 50% silk. And it knit up like a dream. I actually really like the texture of this yarn. Now, I don't have any more of it, so if I do knit this one up again, because the pattern allows for so many different yarn weights, I'd be really interested in knitting this shirt in a different yarn weight and maybe different sleeve lengths or different alterations. This pattern is definitely a must knit piece. I feel like everyone who knits either knits this or the Sophie scarf or shawl. They're just like the most popular knitting patterns. I don't know, they're pretty simple, but they're really fun to work up. Now, I don't have a Sophie scarf or a shawl of any type to show you guys today. So now we can start talking about the finished knits. And I just realized that last time I filmed this was actually a month and a half ago because I filmed at the end of April or middle of April. I decided to combine, I said I would combine April and May, like progress, and we would go from there. And the only knit I've managed to finish in all of that time is actually, I mean, I've gotten close to a couple, but we'll talk about those later. But the one that I finished was actually my zipper Dagmar. This is a pattern by Petite Knit, and I knit mine in Cyrano by Rerum in their color MERLOT. And it is just the most stunning knit I've ever worked up in my entire life. This is the blocked, finished version. There's still a couple ends I need to sew in, but we'll get to that maybe later tonight. Actually, that would be a great little movie knit. This knit ended up taking me 5 months to knit. I started it January and I finished it almost 6 months, end of May. The longest part was definitely sitting down and doing the zipper. Now I did knit and finish other knits in the meantime. This wasn't my sole project, and there was a little bit of slugging going on, especially when it came time to knitting the sleeves. I think I spent a week and a half knitting one sleeve. The second sleeve I got it done in like a couple of days, but definitely this was a long haul project if you plan on casting this one on, or any other Dagmars, or if you're knitting a Dagmar sweater, how long is it taking you or has it taken you? I'm really curious. Because I knit mine in Rerum Cyrano, I did have to go up a needle size. I talk about all of this in my vlog about the Dagmar sweater. If you haven't checked that out, I highly recommend you do. I go through the whole experience from cast on to cast off and all my thoughts and issues throughout the pattern and throughout the knitting process. So there's a more in-depth version there, but there's a couple extra things that I can just gloss over here. So for the Dagmar sweater, I was actually knitting this with Morgan from Morgan Unravel. She's still knitting hers, and I'm really super excited to see her final result. She just got at the zipper portion. She's doing the double knitting for it, and hopefully hers goes smooth as well, but also it was a bit challenging for me, and we can get into that a little bit later. But if you guys haven't checked her out, I highly recommend you do, or if you're curious about knitting a Dagmar and want to, check out the hashtag Dagmar KAL over on Instagram. We kind of decided to create a little KAL, really chill, smooth, like no specific deadlines, just knit it together and share our progress and keep us motivated. The tag is hashtag Dagmar KAL over on Instagram, and you can check other people's progress and knits and just different versions of the Dagmar, and that included the Dagmar Zipper, the Dagmar Sweater, and the Dagmar Jacket, because there's 3 different patterns. And since then, Petite Knit has released also the Dagmar Men's, and I believe the Child Dagmar Sweater. Right? I think so. This project was actually really fun to knit alongside with someone and kind of have someone to bounce my ideas off of, or just have someone to talk to about certain ideas, because this pattern is a little bit more challenging, and because it's such a big knit with cables and a design, you can't just knit to like a specific size. I mean, you can, but if you want to end on a specific chart at a specific place and want your sleeves to line up with your body, or just want, there's like a lot of decision making and a lot of personal preferences that come into play in this one. And it was really nice to not have to go through that alone. But yeah, and I feel like Morgan felt the same because I've heard her mention this in her own podcast. So it's nice to know that she also feels like this was a really good project to knit alongside with someone. As for my Dagmar, now, I did a couple modifications, and if you want to know more about them, again, check the video about the Dagmar sweater. But the first modification I made was actually the lining of the two back diagrams, because Petite knits sweater, all Dagmars, for the women's, the diamonds don't line up. The only one that lines up is the men's Dagmar sweater. And I saw her comment somewhere that that is because the men's doesn't have short rows. But the other ones, the panels don't line up, which kind of frustrated me a little bit. Now, I tried my best to get it to line up. It's not 100% accurate, but if you want to know how I did it, so what I did was when I picked up stitches for the front from the back, I tried to line up where the cables were and the purl section was, and just tried to line it up by eye. So I picked up a couple extra stitches here, I picked up less stitches here, picked up a couple more here, so that I would have, I think it was to pick up 30 or 31 stitches. I would have the 30 or 31, but they would be a little bit more bunched up here, a little bit not as bunched up. I didn't pick up stitch for stitch, if that makes sense. That's kind of how I did it to get it to line up as best as I possibly could without altering the pattern too much, because I was really scared to shift the shoulders too much, especially with a zipper involved or like a chunky collar. I just didn't want to warp the sweater and have like a hump on the back, or just have too much displacement in the original design. So that was modification number one. Then for the body, I actually went and I knit, because I knit the body next. I was actually knitting the body of my Dagmar sweater back in March when I was in Montreal for a week. And I actually finished this on the plane. From my memory, because I didn't include this in the video because it was during traveling and such, I actually made the body just a little bit longer, just so that I can get the half cable at the body. I don't remember if I mentioned this in the video. But that was it. I just really wanted to finish on the half diamond, because she says in the pattern you can either finish on a full diamond or a half diamond, which then leads me to my last modification. I ended up shortening the sleeve just a little bit because I felt like the sleeve, like unblocked, was going to end up here on me, which was going to be way too long. If it grew, it would pass my fingers, and I just didn't want that. For some reason, because this design has a really low kind of drop shoulder, the sleeve started really low, and then when she would ask you to knit, I think it was 38 centimeters plus 7 centimeters of rib, the sleeve would basically unblocked end up here on me, which was way too long, because then if it blocks, which it did to a perfect length, it would have passed my fingers probably. And that just for me is a sleeve that is just a little bit too long. But that was kind of like a good thing for me, because at the end of the day, I was able to finish on a half diamond, more or less. So my body diamonds match with the sleeve diamond. It was kind of like a good modification turn of events. Then that kind of just leaves us with the zipper and the collar, which was probably the hardest part to work up, simply because I just had to reread the pattern like 5 or 6 times. It was written there, but for some reason in my brain, I just had to keep double checking, making sure I was reading what was like right. And the double knit was a little bit confusing, because she asks you once you're done the collar, you don't sew it in or fold it in. Okay, so don't look at my unweaved ends. I need to sew them. But basically how you work up the collar is you pick up the stitches along the inside here, and then you knit a flap about 7 centimeters, I think. Or no, 7 inches. 7 centimeters, it would be like that big. You knit up a flat about 7 inches, but you don't fold it and sew it in at the base just quite yet, because you're actually gonna work the double knit all around so that you can knit a flap along the back so that you can kind of see here how it's kind of like seamless. So once you've knit the double knit, after that you can pick up the stitches that were placed on hold at the bottom of the collar and knit them together and bind off with the top fold so it kind of seams the collar closed and shut and folded. And that's just going to leave you with the binded off, because you do an Italian bind off for the double knit. That kind of just leaves you with those stitches a little flap open so that you can squeeze the zipper in and sew it shut. The zipper flap doesn't go all the way down. It kind of just stops here where your rib connects, like where the rib starts at the front. It kind of just stops there. After that, it's all like an open zipper on the inside. I tried to follow her video for the zipper sweater, the regular zipper sweater, because this one doesn't have any video tutorials. She didn't give any help on how to sew in the zipper. It's very sew in the zipper, ta-da, you're done. She doesn't even state in the pattern when to block it. I ended up sewing my zipper before blocking it, and then I blocked it afterwards. I now realize I should have done the opposite. I should have blocked it first and then sewn in the zipper. But at that point, I was so kind of just ready to get this done that I said, screw it. I'm going to sew it in, block it, which also kind of worked in the end because it was kind of like a thick yarn. It didn't grow or warp too much. This yarn doesn't really have that much drape. It did grow a little bit where it needed to, but it was still a really structurally sound yarn. So it kind of helped to block it afterwards because all my little bumps and creases that were created in the sewing process and the hand stitching, they're gone. My zipper is now flush with the zipper flap. So I think that, you know, sometimes you just got to break the rules and do what makes you happy. Who cares? Who cares if you're supposed to block it first or block it after? I figured the zipper, worst case is, I could always seam rip it and sew it back. Like, there's no issue whatsoever. So that was my Dagmar zipper sweater, and it is finally done, and might I tell you, it is 20 degrees today. So it is not time to wear this one. This one is definitely gonna have to wait for fall. Ooh, also, I forgot to mention a little bonus content. The sweater has so much positive ease. I think it has 10 inches of positive ease. The sleeves actually land like right here on me, like they're really wide. It's super comfy and cozy, but I wanted to see just for fun. I asked my boyfriend to try on the sweater. This is what, like, it fits him. It's a little tight, and of course it's definitely like too short, but I feel like if I was to knit a size, the medium, because this was the small, by the way. If I was to knit the medium with the same yarn, just longer, it would be perfect for him. That's insane. Mind you, I'm 5'2", he's 6 foot. So yeah, definitely we would need to add length. But now he wants me to knit him a Dagmar zipper sweater. And I told him if I start it now, I will get it done for Christmas because this one took me 6 months to knit, almost. But we'll see. We'll see. So far, I've been making him one sweater a year. So maybe this could be the one for this year. Sadly, that was my only finished knit of the month-and-a-half break. So now we can hop into finished knit. The first whip that I want to share with you guys is one that I got so close to being done. So close. I don't even think I had this one casted on last time. The last podcast, but it is actually my Soul Top by Mochi Knits. So this is what it looks like. It is unblocked. I just bind it off last night, so I'm really excited to show this to you guys. No ends are weaved in. This is just, yeah, curly borders and curling on itself. I still need to work up the attachment at the front because this is, surprisingly, it doesn't look like it, but this is actually a V-neck top. So these are going to get connected and it's just going to, yeah. But right now it just looks like this. This one was actually knit in Noro Kakigori, which is cotton silk blend. Is it just cotton and silk? I'm going to put what it is right here. I decided to unravel my Monica Geller tee because I just didn't wear it. And I really love this yarn. Look at these colors. This yarn is beautiful, and I love that I can now give it a second life. I can't wait to actually, well, first I need to block it, but I can't wait to be able to wear this and try it on. Right now it's just a little awkward to try on because it's not the final like fit, and the fronts keep rolling in on each other. I did see that in the pattern instruction, it does say if you keep having this issue, you can actually iron it, like just steam iron it a little bit. I mean, we'll see what blocking does. Cotton usually is pretty stiff and pretty flattening, so hopefully it'll keep its shape. Now, I did knit the small, the second size. I didn't knit the extra small, and this is how much yarn I have left. So I definitely have more than enough yarn to knit the 2 I-cords. I'm going to be doing I-cords. The original design is a crochet like loop. I just don't want to crochet, and I think an I-cord's going to work better. I'm thinking maybe doing a 2-stitch or a 3-stitch I-cord. We'll see which one, but I think that that's one of the modifications I'm going to make, if not so far the only modification I'm going to make for this top. I'm so excited to be able to wear it. It is, I just really like the idea of bringing a yarn back to life instead of having a knit sit in my closet not being worn. I'm also really surprised that I still have so much yarn. I could technically, after blocking it, we'll see also where it ends up. I might potentially make this a little bit longer because it is a little bit of a cropped top, but that's the original design. I did want to point out I actually learned something new while knitting this top up, and it was to actually work up an Icelandic bind off. I had never worked one of these before. It's really similar to a regular bind off, except it creates a more stretchy version of it. And instead of just binding off the 2 stitches together, you go in and grab, like you go into the next stitch and like knit that stitch and slip it over. I'm going to link a video in the description down below about it, but I thought it was a really cool bind off technique, and I love, and this is why I actually enjoy knitting other designers' patterns, is because I learned cool new techniques like this that like you are not a necessity, but it's nice to know, if that makes sense. Like I could have done an Italian bind off or a regular bind off and I'm sure it would have been fine, but now I know that Icelandic bind offs exist. The next one is one that I plan on unraveling a little bit, but I wanted to show you guys before I do where I'm at and what it's looking up to be. And we're going to talk a little bit as to why I'm going to unravel it. It'll probably be very clear, but this is the Irene Lin Lyra Tee. I love this design. I love the yarn that I'm knitting it in. This is a yarn that I picked up in Montreal, and it is by Peche Mignion, and it is from their Tarot collection. And I just love the color of this yarn. If I remember correctly, this was merino silk and 15% yak. That is why I chose this yarn. I was really intrigued by the yak. Even though it's just 15%, I wanted to see what it would feel like to wear it, knit it up, and just thought it was cool to say that my shirt has yak in it. So last time we caught up, I did have this shirt, and I think it was probably about here. And I had to completely unravel it and rework the arm increases because for some weird reason, I accidentally started knitting a size up in the instructions. I just started reading the wrong instructions. So when I tried it on, the shirt was like really, really big. Since then have reknit to this far, but I'm gonna be unraveling and I wanna show you guys, I wanted to show you guys first because I absolutely love the finishing at the bottom of this shirt. So it has a really cool twisted rib with cable and then twisted rib section again. So that is how the shirt finishes off. That is also how the sleeves are going to finish off. But the reason why I'm going to be unraveling is because the pattern says to go and knit 3.5 inches after the arm connection. And then you can do the twisted rib detailing and the little cable here. I did that. The pattern also says if you wish it to be longer, keep knitting a little bit more. Just keep in mind that the twisted rib with the cable section is going to be 3.5 inches. So in total, that ends up being a 7-inch body from the armhole. I tried it on yesterday and this is just like it's supposed to be a crop top. This is just too cropped for me. I really like the original design to have the twisted rib section be the same length above the cable as it is below. So for that to happen, I need to rip back and just knit the shirt a little bit longer so then I can redo this right here. So again, I really wanted to have this one done, at least the body done for you guys this podcast, but we're gonna unravel it. I just wanted to show you guys beforehand what exactly the shirt looks like. So I really, really like it. So I am really enjoying this pattern and I really like the yarn and the look. It's just, yeah, First time mistake. I don't even know why I went into a size over. Second time mistake, too short. So that is that. Then I have the Beatles All You Knit Is Love. This one is the Sea of Whole sweater by Cecil Jeffrey. This is what hopefully my finished sweater is going to look like. And I actually got, I'm still working on the first panel, but this is how far I got. You can actually see the yellow submarine. I decided to start with the front panel. I don't know why. Like, start to show up. It's almost done. It's a little bit bumpy. This is my first time working a Intarsia color work. So the back is atrocious with so many ends to weave in, but I think it's working up fairly well. I'm actually really enjoying this one, and it's going to be so much easier once I'm done with these extra colors. It's not a full-on color work. The yellow submarine is only on the front panel in this one hole. It doesn't show up anywhere else on the sweater, so then it's just going to be white and black, simple 2-color Intarsia knitting. This is a bottom up sweater construction, and it is a flat knit sweater construction. So this is also my first time working up a sweater this way. I am actually knitting it in, no, there's a nut. There we go. Great. All right. I am actually knitting this one up in Drops Karisma for the white and the black. The red is just some red wool that I picked up from Buffalo when I visited my sister. And then the yellow is just some hand-dyed mini skeins that I had dyed with flowers just to test out, like some at-home dyeing kits. Whoever told me to put the yarn in socks while I'm color knitting, like while I'm working up the colors, thank you. This has actually been a lifesaver. It's just weird now I walk around with like little stuffed socks, but it actually really helps with the tangle. Also, I did want to flag, I am still highlighting directly in the book. I know last time I said that, I mentioned that I don't like coloring in my book, and I just did it because I got frustrated. Like, a lot of people messaged me with alternatives and great advice on what to do instead, but at this point, I'm kind of too far in, and the ink has set into the page, and whatever. It's too late. We're coloring the book, and that's what's happening. So I am still highlighting my book. Just wanted to point that out. Now I am pretty impressed with my color work and what it's looking like. This one is definitely one that I really need to sit down and like highlight each row as I go. So I'm not knitting on it as quickly as I would have liked to. And I'm pretty sure once I get done with the submarine, this will go a lot faster. Again, since it'll just be white and black yarn. I am impressed with what it looks like, but I don't think that this is my best, like this will be my best color work knit ever, simply because it's a little bit bumpy. I hope that the blocking process will help with that and help flatten out, especially the connection between like the black and the yellow. It's a little bit bumpy, and I am doing the trick where you take, like, let's say you go red to black, you like twist the stitches so that you don't end up with giant holes. I'm also doing it at the bottom here all along. So I'm doing that everywhere. We'll see once I block it if this will fix, if this will flatten this a little bit better. I hope so. I hope so. But I'm really happy with how my yellow submarine is looking. Oh, and look, more socks. I've never done a flat knit sweater where you seam it up at the end, and I've never done an Intarsia sweater. So this one is a very exciting knit for me. And then I have a very new cast on that I casted on a day ago before going to a movie. And this one was actually a little spur of the moment cast on because for some reason, I guess summer just has everybody in a certain mood. I keep seeing people on Instagram cast on with new yarn or cast on new projects, and it kind of made me have a little bit of FOMO, and it kind of just made me want to cast on something else myself. So I did. And this is how far I am. This is just the back panel, and this one is actually going to be the Ophelia blouse. I have been wanting to knit this one for a really long time now, and this was actually one of the patterns that I mentioned in my summer 2025 plans. So this pattern is originally from December 2023, and it is a pattern by Tamara Jordan. So I'm really happy to be casting one of my goals for the summer on, and this is just the back panel. So I just need to knit 7 or 6 inches for the back panel, and then as most sweater constructions or shirt constructions go, I'll pick up stitches for the front panels and then connect at the armhole and then go from there. I actually really like the drapiness of the material that I'm knitting right now, and I can't wait to have this one finished, or a bigger portion so I can properly show you guys, because this is actually Sunday fiber coat. This is Fieldling, and sadly I saw over on Instagram or on Ravelry that it is actually discontinued. I'm not too sure why, but this was a silk linen blend. Was there somewhere? I'm going to list what exactly goes into this yarn. I don't have the label in this cake, and I don't know where my second skein is. Now, I actually really like this yarn because it runs you so many meters. I think it's like 490 meters. I might be wrong. This is a really nice yarn. I've been actually scared to use it because I just wanted to do it justice. This yarn is a little bit pricey. I think it was like $40 the skein. So both skeins together are going to be $80. So on the price of things, it's a beautiful color. It's a beautiful yarn. I had never worked with this fiber combination before, but it is a bit more of a pricey yarn, and I did buy it because I was at Knit City. And it's a local BC dyer, so I love supporting local businesses, and just especially when the products are such good quality and so beautiful, I say go for the splurge. By the way, in case you're wondering, this is the color Minted. I had to go up quite a lot to hit gauge. So the original pattern calls for US 2, 2.75 millimeters. I'm using US 4, 3.5 millimeter needles because otherwise I couldn't hit gauge. And the fabric isn't see-through still. Like, it's really loose and airy and will be beautiful. Even after going up 2 US needle sizes, the fabric still isn't like sheer. You still don't see through it, which is actually really, really nice. Like, you don't really see my thumb moving. And over on Ravelry, I was looking at the projects to see if I'm the only one. And I saw someone else also had to go up quite a few needle sizes to hit gauge. So I don't know if it's the designer who has a really loose tension, or if it's because I'm also using maybe, I think this was a light fingering yarn. So it might be a little bit thin compared to a normal fingering weight yarn. But nonetheless, I'm really happy with the drape that this one's gonna have. And the reason why I'm so drawn to this shirt is actually the little lace design where the buttons kind of go. I find that such a cute, delicate addition to add, and I really like the body shaping around the waist, how it kind of accentuates the waist a little bit. So I'm really excited for this one. And then even when I showed my boyfriend, I was like, this is what I'm knitting next. He was like, ooh, do it, that's really nice. So I'm looking forward to it because I now have his support in choosing this pattern as well. It's the little things. But yeah, so that is my Ophelia blouse. Maybe next time I will have a little bit more progress to show you. Now, I remember last time one of the patterns that I showed you guys was actually the socks that I was knitting in this beautiful blue cobalt. I have since then lost the little bobbin, so they're on hold till I find it. It's somewhere in my house. I keep moving things around, so it for sure is somewhere in my house, but till I find that support thread, I'm just gonna put the socks on hold and might cast on something else, a different type of sock. But yeah, because I remember telling you guys I would have these socks to show, and I don't. So I just had to go get my charging cable because my camera is about to die, but we still have lots to talk about. So the next thing I wanna show you guys is actually some hand spinning. I kind of got in a little bit of a spinning mojo this month, which I've decided to make June a no spin month. I'm going to be doing my Fibre breed study. That's still going to be happening. I'm not going to skip on it, but I want to save up the spinning mood for July. July is going to be the Tour de Fleece. Now, if you aren't aware about Tour de Fleece, it's an event that kind of goes alongside with the Tour de France. The Tour de France is the cycling event that happens during the month of July, and at the same time, this is such a great idea, the spinning community gets together and like forms little groups and just spins yarn. And as long as the cyclists are cycling or biking, we spin and treadle yarn. It's really casual. Some people will try to spin as much as they can. Some people just do maybe 5-10 minutes every day as long as they cycle. And it's a really great way to just spend the month of July communicating together online, forming little groups and little bubbles, and just keep each other motivated. And because July is usually really, really warm, it's a great way to still play with fiber, but not sit under like really warm knit items. You just spin yarn, and I don't know, I really like it. I joined last year a little bit late, but this year I want to get a head start, and I'm starting my planning right now about what I'm going to spin and what I'm going to be working up. But at the same time, just to keep the motivation going, I'm not going to be spinning a lot in June. I'm going to try and hold back so that I'm ready to go in July. Because I realized this month I spun a lot of yarn. I don't know what happened. The month just got carried away from me. But last time I had shown you guys that I was working up this beautiful yarn. Now this is Devonia from West Coast Colors. This is a 2-plied yarn. Now this is 2 braids out of the 3. I still have to 2-ply some of my bobbins left and then wash it and dry it. So I don't know the meterage of the yarn. Now this did result in a sport weight. This is 2-plied. So Devonia is actually a wool from John Arbon Textiles, and it is a mix of different sheeps. I'm going to put the list right here of what the exact sheep breeds are. This green is beautiful. It's such like a forest deep green. As for the spin goes, I have so far 472 yards of it in these 2 braids. I don't know the exact weight. I am waiting to finish the full spin before checking all of that out. So definitely next time I will know the exact meterage, or when I post it on Instagram, I'll put all of the exact info. But this was basically one of my big spins of the month. Then I have this really interesting project, this really interesting spin. So this was actually a purchase from Fibre this year. And this was my very first attempt at processing wool. This one actually came with 30 grams of a bat carded by Melly Knits, and then the rest was washed raw wool, just really loose, kind of like this, just the little locks of wool. This one was actually my very first carding attempt. I ended up buying some hand carders from Fibre as well. This was my first attempt hand carding. Now, if you guys can tell, the staple length is really short on this one. It is actually 1.5 to 2 inches of staple length. It was a Cormo coated fleece from 7 Spirit Farms, 3.4 ounces in total, 30 grams the bat, and then about 60 grams hand carded by me. And the yarn ended up being 195 yards in sport weight. So this one was definitely a challenge of its own, simply because it was my first time hand carding, my first time processing wool. And I ended up spinning the bat on its own and then spinning the 60 grams of carded fiber on its own and plied it together. Of course, because I had more hand carded roving like prep than I did the bat, I did have to re-split that bobbin up and then like keep on plying it together. But this was a really good learning curve, and I love the fact that I had a sample in a bat form so that I could compare my carding with the bat. Now, of course, hand carding will not be as good as carding with a drum carder. The machine is just going to give you a more smooth and unified bat and like piece, whereas the Rolag, it's kind of the difference between spinning your own yarn and buying yarn that is already spun. One of them is just processed by a machine, and one of them is more depending on how you are feeling that day and how consistent you are. Now, as for the hand carding process, this definitely was a little bit more of a luxurious first attempt because the wool was beautiful. The staple length was relatively short, so I wasn't able to create a beautiful Rolag. It basically created little balls of wool, but it spun up. The wool just spun up like butter, and that didn't even really matter. I didn't really have to fight it. And I absolutely love the fact that I had the mini bat to compare it with, because it kind of made me realize that I need to card a little bit more, do a little bit more passes on my hand carders, because when I was spinning, there were a couple pieces that weren't fully carded and could have just maybe passed once more in the brushes. But nonetheless, I'm so amazed at how this yarn turned out. And it was actually thanks to Melissa from Melly Knits who convinced me to get the hand carders and try out carding. And I will actually be washing some raw wool soon, so then I can do the full prep from raw wool to spun yarn. That is kind of one of my goals for this year's Tour de Fleece. And then because I had spun this Cormo and it was with a bat partly from Melly Knits, I then looked at my stash of bats because I'm part of the Sommelier Blossom group, which is a subscription club for Melly Knits. Every month or bi-monthly you get a bat in the mail, and she has different tiers and different groups. There's Origins, Firefly, Blossom, and I think Butt Hair, which is like the most luxurious group. I'm part of the Chaos Bats, and Chaos Bats are just the wool with some silk speckled into it. So I think it's normally between 5 to 20% silk depending on how she feels that month. I actually really like Melissa from Melly Knits because she's very chaotic and kind of just does what she wants to do. And I really vibe with that. Because I was in a spinning mood, I looked at my bats from the Sommelier group and I noticed that the month of April was actually Cormo. And this one was from Nancy Ortman, so it's a different farm. It was blended with 20% sari silk, but I spun it because I was like, Cormo, I just finished this Cormo, I can totally do this one. And I had spun it because I was like, it's Cormo, it's gray. The one that I just hand carded was gray, and I thought that there was some way that I could potentially work these two up together. It wasn't till I washed them and I laid them side by side that I realized this gray is almost kind of like sandy brown, and it definitely has a more warm tone to it, whereas this one, I don't know if it's because of the silk, but it definitely has a more cool tone to it. You can even see it in the wool itself. But you can also tell the difference between both wools. These are the uncarded little locks, and this one's so much crisp white, cool tone, and this is so much more warm tone. So I don't think I can potentially use these two together. So I even tried to spin these two the same thickness, do a 2-ply so that I could pair them together. This one gave me 195, and this one gave me 214 yards. So they're pretty similar, but yeah. I believe this one was 100 grams and this one might have been just a little bit under 100 grams. But yeah, so I'm gonna wait for another spin to come up so that I can either knit them on their own or hold them in some color work, hold two together, figure out something to do with these because I don't really know just quite yet. But at the same time, this would actually be kind of pretty. Although the wools are completely different feeling, but yeah. So that's kind of where I'm at with all of my spinning. My wheel is now empty, and I do have my breed of the month done, but that video isn't up yet, so I'm not going to show you guys that one in this episode. I will show it to you in the next episode. Now, I do have one more thing that I want to share with you guys. The last thing that I wanted to share with you guys is one that was kind of inspired by you, but also mainly inspired by my sister. It is not knitting, it is not spinning, it's a new hobby, but it's one that I'm slowly dipping my heels into. I don't have the full equipment just quite yet. I also don't really have room, so I kind of wanted to test it out before deep diving into it. And it is actually sewing. So my sister has a full-on sewing machine and she's sewing little shorts and little bags and cute little accessories. Now I don't have any of that. I've decided to get into hand sewing and just hand sewing on a smaller scale because I went to Granville Island with my boyfriend and his parents when they were visiting us back in April. And I actually picked up Farm and Folk's Quilt Alchemy. And this is a book all about hand dyeing fabrics naturally, but also quilting. And there's some stunning, beautiful hand quilted tutorials in here and hand quilted like quilts designs and just really raw, natural colors. And how stunning is this? So basically, this has made me want to try quilting. A lot of these are actual like big scale quilting projects. So from this book, I've decided to actually make the hand quilting tool roll, and it's just basically a little pouch to house all of my quilting and hand sewing equipment. So on the inside, it's kind of gonna look like this. and it's very simple. The quilt is on the outside, and then on the inside it's just like it's one fabric and then just like one simple pocket on the inside. The main stitching is all going to be done on the outside facing. Here's my little quilting box. So for this one, to construct the outer fabric, I've been slowly making my way, hand sewing about 4 of these a night. I need 24 in total, but I've been, oh no, I sewed this one the wrong way. Oh, okay, I'm gonna have to redo this one. So I've been making the design on the outside. I basically make 4 of these a night or whenever I can, and this is what they kind of look like. They're the little, I think they're called a snowball quilt, because basically it's gonna be open as such and create your little square. So this is what it's gonna look like all over in different templates and designs. So my 2 main fabrics are this orange and swirly one with this little strawberry design, and then I've gotten a couple of extra shapes cut out of the little triangles cut out in this one that I had used for the inside of my Florence bag, just like a cotton fabric that I had left over. And that's kind of the colors that I'm going with. So basically it asks you to cut a bunch of little squares, and these are all measuring the same length, and then taking even smaller squares. I think these are 1 by 1 inch with a little bit of a seam allowance, and then you just sew them at the corner, sew them in diagonally, and then just cut the excess fabric, the little triangle here. So then you're left with this. And when it comes to sewing it all together, I'm just gonna fold them again, iron them down, and sew all of these together. So we are back off with a square, but a square with a very interesting center. So that's basically my hand sewing journey. I still have a lot to do on this project. I went to Dress Sew and I bought a lot of little things for this project. Like I got these geometry sets. So this was surprisingly the exact square size that I needed for my little square template. And then there was a even smaller square to cut out, which was perfect. There's different shapes as well, like triangle. These are just 5 generic shapes that you're going to use in quilting. This was 25 cents at Dress Sew. And then I got a little blade to cut my fabric. I also have a cutting board. But yeah, I've just been kind of enjoying myself with this. I feel like this is going to be a really long project, and I've learned so much about sewing just making these very simple kind of geometric shapes already. It definitely would be faster with a sewing machine, but I definitely love and appreciate the fact that I can take these with me wherever I go. So far, I've done some in front of the TV while watching my shows, or even while editing. I'll be like hand sewing and hand stitching a couple of these. I actually really like cutting the fabric, and this has just been a really fun, different way to play around with fabrics, and I don't know, just something new. So definitely this is an unexpected new hobby that I might be adding to here. Now, I will definitely be adding this to my next podcast update if you guys resonate well with this and want to know more about hand quilting and my experience with it and kind of see where I'm at. Maybe, hopefully by next month, I'll have all of the pieces sewn together, and I don't think I'll have the bag fully done, but we'll see. We'll see. I don't know. I'm just having a lot of fun with this. It's a new world, and I just love learning new hobbies. Which then brings me to the final portion of this podcast, the stash busting. So the last time we talked, these were the meterage I was at and the grams of wool I was at, and I was at a total of 169 skeins. So January was 179, February was 170, March 169. Today, I am sitting at 162 skeins. So I did go down, but had I not been continuously spinning and adding to my yarn stash, I feel like this would be going by a lot faster. I feel like because I'm spinning almost as many skeins as I am knitting, my goal to get to 50 yarns by the end of the year or by a specific time is gonna, I don't know, it's gonna take a lot longer. I need to knit a lot more, basically. But overall, in the end, the yarn quantities are still going down. 169, 162, we're making a little bit of progress. And if I do this June well and don't spin any yarn, maybe I can go down even more next month. So that kind of sums up my little hobby world of knitting, spinning, and now sewing. And I'm actually really curious to hear what you've been working on while I've been talking for so long. What are your projects for this summer? And if you don't already follow me over on Instagram, I highly recommend you do. I post there almost daily, or if you want to keep in touch and see what goes on behind the scenes, I'm usually there. And if not, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you guys have a lovely, beautiful day, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye!